What's up to all our sidekicks and henchmen out there in the Geek Nation? You're currently tuning into the CultPop podcast live stream. Spoiler alert, where we talk about and review the week's comics. Spoiler alert is a warning, but also a very clever name, if I may say so. I'm your host, Johnny Destructo, owner of Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex at 4327 Main Street, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, nestled nicely in the neighborhood of Manayunk. With me this week is the incomparable and preferably trade-waiting Len. Hi, the Bat Tribble. Hi, Len.
What's up, JD? How you doing? Hey, sidekicks and hench folk.
How am I doing?
Yes.
How am I doing?
How are you doing?
I'm so sleepy, dog. This is my sleepy face. Oh, I have a baby, and he doesn't give a fuck. Sometimes he pulls a Len, and so I'm like, hey, Kai, why don't you go to sleep? Wouldn't that be nice? And then he pulls a Len and goes, I don't give a fuck.
Oh, I thought it was going to be a Len with just it's a random high-pitched noise. Like, it's quiet time now. Cool.
Amazing. Let's see. It's not a spoiler alert without the most emotionally well-adjusted human being I've ever had the pleasure of knowing. Brian Lieb, B, share something wise with the listening and viewing audience.
Oh, something wise.
But do it, do it faster than you're doing.
We always, throughout human history, we always think we're on the right track, right? That's the thing. We look back and we're like, those idiots, they didn't know what was going on. But we might not know the whole story, but we're on the right track. And the process of human advancement is finding out where we're wrong about that.
Oh, so does everybody have a gun in their mouth? You take it out.
No, this is you don't have to be sad about this.
You'll be okay about it. Right? You'll be okay about today in the future.
No, this is not
what you said.
This is not a sad thing, you guys. This is just like, look, we think we know what's going on right now, but we should be aware that we could be wrong about stuff.
Yeah.
Be open to advancement, you know?
That sounds like some liberal SJW cuck nonsense.
Yeah.
I'm tired of you.
I'm tired of you implying that I'm stupid and I don't know what's going on right now.
I'm surprised that you caught on to that.
Oh, there it is. That's what I was waiting for. All right. And also with us this week, no, just no.
I got my ego knocked on the ground. I'm going to pick it up.
Oh, no. Yeah, get that.
We've got some special guests joining us a little later on for a discussion about WandaVision. Let's just jump into some of these past week's comics. Normally we would jump into the letters column, but fuck us, there's no letters. That's cool. No one wants to email us at cultpopgo@gmail.com. Because you know what? Because they're hanging out with us here, and they're just going to comment, and I'll be reading those anyway. So what's the point, right? Action Figure Expert says, hello. What's up going on with you guys today? Robert Monroe Jr. says, good morning, Cult Poppers. What should I buy today? And big congrats on joining the ranks of Daddyhood, JD. Sent you a Facebook message with some advice that has passed on to me that definitely came in handy. I will go look for that after the show. All right, someone give Robert Monroe something to buy right now.
I got something he can put his money towards. The world's longest live podcast on Kickstarter, brought to you by the Black Tribbles. Look it up on Kickstarter, ladies and gentlemen. It's live. We're looking to collect money. We are going to be doing the world's longest live podcast, April 16th through the 18th, here in Philadelphia, right here at my house. We're going to have a pancake eating challenge, a chocolate cheesecake challenge, a rap cipher. We're going to do Star Trek role playing, Dungeons & Dragons role playing. We're going to do karaoke. We're going to do all kinds of things for 60 straight hours. Look for us on Kickstarter. Go support it because it's going to be insane, and we need your help so that we can get medical assistance, caffeine, and alcohol. Thank you.
Not necessarily in that order.
Yeah, I have a question. Do you have like naps baked in to the criteria or to your schedule?
Thank you, Robert Monroe Jr. I appreciate your contribution to our campaign. And yes, we do have some very scheduled naps planned, and we also have some very special guests. One who I'm in negotiation with this morning while we're on the phone, so I may be able to hopefully announce before the end of the show whether or not that's a go or not. So and if it is, it'll be big time.
Is it me? Because I could use regularly scheduled naps.
Yeah. Did JD just be on the podcast to nap?
Yeah.
Like, stay him away.
I'm in charge of naps. All right. Thank you, Robert Monroe Jr. I appreciate it. And everyone else listening, comment below and be part of the conversation. We're going to talk about this week's books. First up is something. Oh, that makes sense. Infinite Frontier #0 from DC Comics, written by Scott Snyder, James Tynion IV, Brian Michael Bendis, Joel Jones, Joshua Williamson, Jeffrey Thorne, Jeff Johns, etc. We listed all of these names, but then somebody didn't get the cut. They're just etc.
Maybe that's what they go by.
Yeah, I got tired.
Like, I'm here, it's etc.
I was like, you know what? I should just go etc.
With art by David Marquez, Jorge Jimenez, Jamal Igle, Raga Sandoval, Howard Porter. Oh, oof. Let's change that note. Rafa Sandoval, Howard Porter, John Romita Jr., and also etc.
Double duties.
The next phase of the DC universe begins here. Dark Knight's death metal presented the darkest threats of the multiverse. DC Future State revealed what may lay ahead. Now it's time to look into the infinite frontier of the current day DC universe. In Gotham City, the Joker jolts citizens awake with an attack even the Dark Knight never expected. In Brazil, a young woman discovers her destiny and her connection to the Amazons. In Belle Reve, Amanda Waller plots an invasion of Arkham Asylum. In the far reaches of space, Mongol dreams of galactic domination, while the Green Lantern Corps, for anyone out there who says Green Lantern Corps, it's pronounced Corps. Green Lantern Corps hosts a summit of its greatest enemies at the Hall of Justice. The League
for anybody out there, is pronounced Justice.
Yeah, not Justice. At the Hall of Justice, the League joins forces with Black Adam. Beyond the mortal world, Wonder Woman settles into a new role in the God Sphere, and somewhere in the DC universe, it's the return of Stargirl in an all-new tale written by Geoff Johns.
Which is Geoff.
For anybody that's listening, it's not pronounced Geoff, it's Geoff.
Yeah.
Geoff. From the French.
Yeah.
Geoff Johns.
This oversized all-star issue kicks off the next great era of storytelling and excitement as top writers and artists reveal what's next for the world's greatest heroes and opens the door to some of the greatest stories of 2021. No, I like how they're not fronting. They're not like some of the greatest stories of all time. Some of the greatest stories within these specific 12 months.
Yeah. Scheduling allowing.
I mean, there was that one from the early Stone Age that was pretty good. Infinite Frontier is not it's not gonna top that, probably. Well, we'll see.
It's a pretty expansive title, though. Infinite Frontier.
Yeah, it's cool.
But
I like it too.
2021.
Right. I like the title. You know, it's one of those kind of generic titles, but I think it's a good entry in that category.
So basically what we have here is Wonder Woman, who at the end of Death Metal has ascended to the next state of being, and she's being invited by the
Quintessence
to join their ranks. A group of folk that I rarely, if ever, think about. So when they showed up, I was like, all right, these guys, cool. So, and she goes with the Spectre and visits all of the little corners of the DC universe in basically what we would call an advert for the books that are coming up, and sort of a primer on what you can expect from these characters and from the DC universe as a whole, as well as at the very end revealing a hereto unforeseen, brand new, hot off the shelves villain for the DC characters to fight that we have. I'm just so excited because we've never seen him before. What did you guys think? No.
So this is like, I enjoyed it.
Yes.
But I enjoyed it with the caveat of, oh, this is the 15th primer issue from DC in the last 5 years. Cool. Like there was the structure of it was fine. Like it was well done for what it was, but it being something that I was like super loving was like, all right. The branching sequences with Wonder Woman and the Spectre, like I like the idea of she's unsure that everything's done and everything's good, so I'm not going to join the quintessence yet. Yeah. So the Spectre takes her around to be like, look, everything's fine. Look, everything's fine. So like that bridging sequence was interesting, but the stuff that he was showing her, saying, look, everything's fine, most of it was awful. It wasn't fine. Like it was hundreds of people dying in Arkham. It was like everything's gonna be cool. Look,
I think they were like the regular things that happen. You know what I mean? Like there wasn't like a universe.
Still, don't worry about the darkness in Gotham. It's status quo.
Batman's got it kind of
horribly. It's fine.
I think overall his basic point was like, hey, look, we killed off the Batman who laughs, so that's great.
Yeah. It's just like you're not gonna worry about that part.
Yeah.
But the short stories that we got previews of books, I enjoyed. I really liked the Batman one. I liked what they did, like potentially clearing the deck for some cool stuff. All those characters, I'm sure that they killed off will come back in some way, shape, or form. But just like this little microcosm of all that terror, I thought it was kind of cool. The Flash, which we'll talk about, was pretty cool. And the big surprise at the end, the only thing that was kind of nifty about it was that character explicitly says that they're the like Kirby version of the character.
Oh, wait, I'm
for
sorry,
the most
really?
part. Yeah, so like they do a thing where it's just like back to my original strength, blah. So that, and even the way that he's kind of depicted, it makes it seem it's the like original Fourth World version of the character as opposed to like the new weird shit as a baby, but then not a baby, but then in space and doing So I was like, okay, cool. We'll go back to basics. That's fine. This was like a solid B-, C+.
Yeah, I'd go with that. I enjoyed dipping my way through the DC universe, and there were certain things that I was very excited about, like Stargirl. The fact that she has had a very popular, I don't know if it's successful. I don't want to call it successful because I don't know the numbers, but it's been a very popular TV show.
It's getting the second season, so
yeah. And the fact that there is not a Stargirl ongoing currently for the people out there who want to see more of this character, it was what? Couldn't believe it. So the fact that she shows up, I was very excited about. And very specifically, something that happens within the Flash sequence. I literally clapped my hands in excitement and went, yes.
Are we not saying what that is?
We can.
All the solicits are naming it, so it's not a secret anymore.
Wally West is the Flash again.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's going to be good, but it means that I'm interested. Right? It means that like, I'm excited about it, and I'm cautiously optimistic. So,
go ahead.
What'd you think?
No, Noel's about to speak. Go, Noel.
I was gonna say, having just finished the first Jeff Johns omnibus of the Flash, I get why everyone really likes Wally now. Finally,
yeah.
And you previously just read the like New 52 Wally as slim as it was, like stuff, or
I read everything from like. No, I never really read much Wally. Wally was the only Wally that I ever really read was Grant Morrison's Justice League. The idea of these two like new, like him and Kyle being the two young bucks, and like so I always liked him. I had no problem. And then also the animated series with Wally, dug it. Everything was cool, but actually reading a run of Wally's and caring, never did. And I just picked up Barry Allen when he came back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, fair enough.
Cool.
Len,
that's a good run.
What was that, JD?
Len, what did you think of Infinite Frontier #0?
Well, I thought Infinite Frontier was a comic book with a lot of pages in it. And I enjoyed turning those pages as I made my way to the end. And then at the end, I was, this is done. Thank you.
You'll be picking up all these books.
Was there not a segment in there that you enjoyed at all?
Honestly, the only thing that modestly hit me, first of all, I thought the sequence with Wonder Woman was kind of cool. It's kind of reminiscent of Kingdom Come. I think I mentioned that in our group chat, because in Kingdom Come, the Spectre goes around with, this priest and goes seeing, what's happening in the DC universe. And
that was the beginning of the Quintessence, too, was Kingdom Come.
There you go.
What?
Yeah. That's the first. Now, they weren't called the Quintessence, but that's when they were first kind of like seeing these like super
like that those characters would get together. They're like
and bust it up at house parties. But this
trying to get to one of those parties, man.
They just play Settlers of Catan. Just like all 5 of them just get together. And
no, they just play Gods Against Humanity, and they just
with nachos.
Gods Against Humanity.
But so that was kind of cool, even though there's a flip at the end, which to me you saw coming right away, and I won't give that, at least that much of it I won't give away.
I mean, I think it's been given away.
Oh, was it?
Or
okay.
Wait, you mean who the character is, or?
No, not that. Even though Noel said fourth world, so that kind of like hints who it is. But no, I see the flip with Wonder Woman's character. Like if you thought that she was, let's put it this way: if you thought she was going to stay with the boy group, the Quintessence, then you haven't been reading comic books. So she doesn't. But the little trip around DC, I like Stargirl. I think that it probably was smart to see what the numbers, what the feel are of the series before moving her into her own comic book. Okay, so, all right, this looks like this is going to be around a little bit. Now let's do a comic book with Stargirl. So I'm fine with that. That was cute. It was very reminiscent of the series, which I enjoyed. So that was fine. I like the whole idea of the, Teen Titans Academy type of deal, which kind of opens up the Teen Titans title to have more of a feel of the Young Justice show. So that seems kind of interesting to me. While I like the idea of Wally West being given back his rightful, earned, inherited mantle of the Flash, yes, I love it. I just hope that there's different artwork on it, because I just didn't like the art on it, but I like the idea of that. And I honestly am a little intrigued about what they're doing with Black Adam in the Justice League story, which is kind of short in the beginning. The art is good. It just doesn't feel Justice League-y to me. Feels kind of more, they look like Superman and Flash are in that little short story, and they look very much of like the Legion of Superhero age as opposed to Justice League age. But it's
David Marquez, I believe, that does that.
Yeah, and that's just his art style. But the story of it looks kind of interesting. I can't say anything about the Yara Wonder Woman who they put in here, because I think her preview is maybe 3 pages, and one of them is a double-sized splash page that if you blink, you might even miss what even story elements are happening there. So while it's interesting, it's just not enough. But I'm interested in the character because of her book. Yeah. But from here, I wouldn't necessarily be locked in on it. So there's stuff that's kind of intriguing. The Batman story is very well drawn, and it's beautiful. And I love that Barbara Gordon is back on her rightful inherited mantle, despite how it got there, of being more or less the Oracle. I like that. But that's where, like, JD or Noel, what you said, the framing sequence doesn't make any sense. If I'm taking you on a tour to show you that everything is okay, and we're going to stop here and see that everything is fucked up in Gotham, well, that's just another Tuesday. You can't let that bother you. Like, well, that's still seems kind of weird. That story didn't sell to me until I read the most recent Batman. So then that sold to me, and I was like, okay, all right, I'm here for what you're doing. The Alan Scott story that happens here, kind of cool. Feels, for some reason, call me wrong or not, feels a little pandering to me, but that might be a nit that I'm picking here. Overall, it was cool. It's interesting. It catches you up with what's going on in DC. That's great. Let's keep it moving.
Right. I was going to bring up the Alan Scott. He comes out as gay to his children, and I think my only question about this, I thought it was lovely. I thought it was like, okay, great. I've seen a lot of people online who were like, well, you can't just turn a man gay, and I'm like, well, he's had female relationships, he's got children, but there are plenty of men who come out in their twilight years as like, hey, I've always been this way. I have had several wives and I have children, but I've always been this way. I've just never been able to articulate it. But I think my question is, this is the infinite frontier for people who are to jump on and to get to know the characters. But who is he? Who are these kids?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think maybe part of the problem with this issue as a whole is it does a pretty good job of introducing some of the characters, but other characters, there may be no reason to be interested in them because we don't really know that much about them. So I don't know if like this particular scene is best served in this issue because we don't have any starting point for these characters to begin with. You know what I mean?
I think it's mostly him though in this story, right? Like knowing that they've since announced Infinite Frontier will be their summer event also, and Alan Scott is one of the main characters in it. So you get the idea that they're his kids. Yeah. And do you need to know more for his point of view in the story?
Right. No, I guess I suppose not.
Yeah.
And then, Rob Patey is saying, I'm sorry, old news, Alan Scott was gay in the New 52 Earth 2 title.
Yeah. This character has been coded as gay for like almost a decade now. Not even just the Earth 2 title, but also in a lot of the things that they've been doing since Rebirth. They've been hinting at it. They've been talking about it. It's been side glances. Even he's had like little backup stories of being in the 40s and having like great friends that have passed. This is not a shock at all. No.
I also like how it's not like I can finally admit it to myself and now I'm gay. Like he has been acknowledging this for some time. Like he says, like, I've had relationships with men over the years. I just didn't let on. And like some of the people in the Justice Society knew, just not everybody knew. I thought that was a interesting way to do it because it's just more usual, I think, in this, or more expected for he couldn't even admit it to himself kind of thing. So to go the other way, it was cool.
It was. I thought it was well done, but to Len's point, and to even JD's, I think it deserved more than 3 pages inside of a 80-page giant about every other corner of the DC universe. Like, let it breathe, because it actually was a well-written scene. It was just sandwiched in, and you're like, oh, okay, it was like Whiplash, jumping from one to the next and one to the next. It did not flow very well.
Brian, what were your thoughts on the book as a whole?
I liked it. I thought it was cool. I love a good overview of the state of the universe kind of book, for what they're doing. And I feel like since Rebirth, when the New 52, the first kind of like, let's move away from that a little bit. There have been a lot of partial redos and resets and kind of thing. And this feels otherwise. This kind of feels like, all right, this is the big one. We are now embarking on a completely new, but in many ways, older pre-New 52 direction. And I like that. I like a lot of where they seem to be headed with it. I'm intrigued by the Black Adam story. What else was in here?
You mean Shazam?
Shazam, yeah. I saw people online going nuts about that. And then DC was like, we're not changing his name. And it was just like, yes, it was in the comic, but his name is not Shazam,
Are you trying to tell me that there are fans out there who get a whiff of the tiniest information and flip the frick out? Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying, JD. I'm saying it.
Even you telling me that makes me want to flip the frick out.
Do it. Also, I think it's interesting that Green Arrow and Speedy are in the Seven Soldiers of Victory now, which is a cool like in their backstory, not now currently, but they were Golden Age. They were a part of the original team, but then their story changed and they couldn't be. But now it's just that they are, I guess, it was just a slightly different history. It's cool. Also, I'm very into that. What JD has on the screen now is Wally accepting the mantle of the Flash. I'm very excited about it. JD and I were talking off air the other day, and I was like, I want Barry to be back, and I like Barry being back. I would be totally into if he's some kind of elder presence in one way or another. JD said like Max Mercury or something like that, or some energy being somewhere.
It sounds like both him and Alan Scott are going to be a part of this.
Yes, the
Ori kind of.
Yeah,
the Infinite Frontier team, the people that are at this the Singularity that are trying to figure out something.
Yeah, I think so. And I'm down with that. And figuring out what they're figuring out.
Brandon's got a good question.
Yeah, he says, how would you all compare it to Rebirth? I feel like it was supposed to be a jumping on point, but it had the same problem JD just mentioned. I'm not sure exactly which problem that is, but maybe just the fact that it jumped around.
Well, I think it's the fact that certain segments were introducing characters in a way that sort of let new readers know who and what they're about, and other things just not as much. I think they rely a little bit on people being around for a little while, and this is like a primer of what's new, not for new readers. As far as this book is concerned, I've been thinking about it while you guys were chatting, and I think, because Noel, you had said we had read a bunch of these over the past however many years, and I think, call me crazy, I think something like this is good every year or 2 years. I think they should always do a State of the Union address to because as readers, I think we get bogged down by the books that we decide we're going to read, and we keep reading those books. And people who aren't us, who do a review show every week, I think get stuck in their little wheelhouses, and they don't really get a chance to check out other books. But these little primers, I think, are a great way for readers to go, oh, wait a minute. Oh, I didn't realize this character was over here doing this. This actually looks kind of interesting. And I think it is a great way to catch up people and maybe get them to try new books. No.
I think my feeling of having read this 1,000 times is actually also because DC has been doing so many anniversary issues in the last 12 months. Yes. Joker, Catwoman, Green Lantern, Robin, even Batman 100 kind of had that same kind of feel because there was tons of backups. Detective 1027, Detective 1000, Superman. There have been so many of these that there's literally no gravitas left.
Yeah.
But so no Lois Lane.
No. Thank you, Brian.
I know. I know that this is more like Rebirth, but it reads like every other one of those. Also, too, during Death Metal, there were 7 different anthology books. This is so old hat because they kept using the same weapon for literally every single reason. The idea of a State of the Union or here's the universe as it stands every 2 years or so, love the idea. But in this format, it just feels like another one. Overuses it so much. Yeah, it's just another one. Every time I get one of these, it's just like, all right, I hope to like half of these.
Didn't we just have a Valentine's one? We just had a Valentine's.
No, that's different though. That's
these are
like a holiday special.
These are very different things.
It's different, but the format is the same. The format is the same, and
it's an anthology, I guess.
Yeah, this has that framing device that they kind of guide you through.
Joker 80-year or however many year anniversary was a bunch of Joker stories from different creators of the Joker throughout time. That's not getting people to those people who are buying the Joker. Are buying it because they like the Joker or are interested in the Joker. That is not something that gets people to try other things. This is a different thing. I understand that you're saying maybe a double-sized issue with a bunch of vignettes in it. It's a similar thing, but I think these play 2 different parts totally.
Yes, but something like I agree with you, but something like this gets lost in the noise of all of those.
Yeah, and I think the casual reader.
This has no impact. Yeah.
I think the problem
smaller impact.
I think the problem lay more within just there's too many events and there's too many people. What people consider reboots, which aren't actually reboots. A lot of customers or people are like, "Oh, DC doing another reboot," and I was like, "No, brah, this is not a reboot. This is just here's where the characters are. Nothing has been reset."
Just well, this one kind of. Well, I guess Death Metal was Dark Knight's Death Metal, and then this is the here's where they're at right after the big reboot.
Yeah, but it's not a reboot.
Yeah. Well, true.
The New 52 was a reboot.
I understand what you're saying, but I think you are, because we're in this. This is our culture. This is where we live, right? Mm-hmm. But especially if you want to see this as a jumping on point for the readers like us, but also more to point, the casual reader of comic books, I think getting lost in the vocabulary of what is a reboot and what is not a reboot does it's like you're just digging a little bit too deep. I think the casual readers just looks and sees, oh my God, it's another big event. Like every time I pick up a book, there's another big event. Maybe maybe it's not technically actually a reboot. Actually, it's just this worldwide event, but it is something that for them means that potentially whatever regular comic book they're reading now has to be put on pause for a couple of minutes because it's got to either shoehorn something in here, or they're heroes or taken off mission, taken off task to go deal with this stuff, and then to come back and deal with it for just 3 more pages before another big event that happens. And I think people get you get lost in that cycle of that stuff.
I agree.
And that's a shame, because you're right. There is good stuff in between. But you just gotta let it breathe, man, or put some stuff off to the side.
This is a great gutter talk conversation, guys. We could actually really dissect the idea of events, how good, how bad, pluses and minuses, especially for the entire line. Or we could do it now.
Well, I'm going to put a capper on that and just say, Len, I agree with you 100%. I'm actually reading a omnibus that Noel had lent me, the She-Hulk omnibus by Dan Slott. And one of the things I keep telling people anytime it comes up, anytime I bring it up, it's because it never comes up.
People keep
no one comes to me like, hey, remember Dan Slott's She-Hulk run from 2004?
They say hello, JD.
Yeah.
And I bring it up.
But one of the pluses that I say is that it's its own little universe, or its own little pocket of the Marvel universe. It doesn't really, so far, seem to have anything to do with any big events. It's just She-Hulk doing She-Hulk through however many issues, and it feels rare to get that these days. Of just like, here is a comic book that exists as it exists. It doesn't have to worry about dark death metals and what have you, and crises, or secret wars.
You're gonna get disappointed.
Fuck.
How far in are you? Yeah.
All right. Well, never mind. Let's move on to the next book.
But Action Figure Expert, yes. Jade is, in fact, Alan Scott's daughter. Those are his 2 kids, Jade and Obsidian.
Jade, yes.
Yeah.
So next up, an interesting project, Berserker. It's spelled BRZRKR. I've been pronouncing it Breezewrecker. #1 from Boom Studios, with Matt Kindt and Keanu Reeves on the writing duties, with Ron Garney on the digital art duties. The man known only as Breezewrecker is half mortal and half god, cursed
that wind,
and compelled to violence, even at the sacrifice of his own sanity. But after wandering the world for centuries, Berserker may have finally found a refuge, working for the U.S. government. To fight the battles too violent and too dangerous for anyone else. In exchange, Berserker will be granted the one thing he desires, the truth about his endless blood-soaked existence and how to end it. So I thought this was kind of interesting. I like Keanu Reeves, I think, as a person more than an actor. I think he seems like a lovely gent, if not particularly sad. But anytime he pops up on my feed, I'm always just like, oh, look at this little Keanu Reeves story. This is lovely. Apparently, he's very nice to everybody. And I like Ron Garney very much. I don't really care about Matt Kindt as a writer. I don't think he's written anything that has really blown my socks off. But I was curious about this, and I tried it out. And having already read a book from Valiant called Bloodshot, and what was the other one? I feel like, and having already read Brian Michael Bendis' Powers series, this just feels like those 2 things put together, and it didn't really feel particularly interesting to me. There's a lot of violence. I think the art by Ron Garney, a gentleman who I used to really, really like his art style, I think ever since he went digital, it has gotten a little too loose for my tastes. I think that they could tighten up on the inks. There are scenes in here where I'm just like, I guess that's brains because of the coloring. I guess those are brains. Because he punches his way through people's heads and their heads explode and there's brains on his knuckles. And it just felt like a very over-the-top, uber-violent book that I have seen before. And I'll probably check it out to see where it's going, to see if it grabs me anymore. But other than that, I just thought it was fine. What did you think, Brian?
I liked it, right? And I went in with pretty reasonably low expectations, in my opinion. I don't know how Keanu Reeves is as a writer or a storyteller. Just the fact that he is known for something else other than comics. There's a lot of vanity projects, were pretty popular like 15 or 20 years ago, and not many of them were that great. Although Umbrella Academy surprised me in that regard. But he had a lot of writing chops. Anyway, and then I enjoyed it, right? I liked how it progressed. I did like the art. It's got a loose feel to it, but I was digging it. I was really caught by the end. So I did not read Powers or what was the other one you mentioned? The Bloodshot.
Bloodshot.
Right. I haven't read either one of those or seen any movies. So and as soon as we got back to him being really old, right? Not just old, but he's from like 80,000 years ago. I was hooked. I was like, ooh, I'm into that. Like that's right on my alley. I dug it. It was a pleasant surprise for this one, and I think I'm going to keep reading.
Nice.
Yeah, I too. I get what JD is saying about the looseness of the art, especially if you've been a longtime follower of Ron Garney's art. But that being said, I still enjoyed it. I still like the art. I thought that it fit the imagery and the savagery of what is happening. First of all, it is not. I can't remember the last time I was reading a comic book and I actually audibly just said, "God damn!"
Wait, which part? Which part was it?
The first head punch, probably. I think.
Yeah, like he punches a dude. Like JD said, he does literally punch a dude through the head, and that's the first of many. I was like, "Yo,
yeah, that's like one of his moves. He does that,
right? You know what I mean? That's his signature move. You know,
that's his go-to."
You should have just called him Head Puncher. Yeah.
So there's that. I think that it definitely has a very, cinematic type of vibe to it. And like as ultra violent as this beginning is, it almost is like the pre-credit scene of the biggest blockbuster action movie. Yeah. It's played out over so many pages because it's a comic book. You know what I mean?
The guy does look a lot like Keanu Reeves too.
Exactly.
For the listeners.
So because like you're saying, like Bloodshot, and I read this and I'm seeing what's the name of, I just forgot the name of the movie series he's in right now. John Wick. I'm seeing John Wick mixed with Vandal Savage. I'm like yo, and Ron Garney is like channeling late 80s, early 90s Frank Miller in some of his layouts and his body language there. Does it feel like a bit of a throwback? Definitely. Is there bits of this that you've probably seen before and he's kind of like stuck it all together to create whatever this story is? Sure. But that's like happens in tons of comic books. But at the end of the day, it was interesting enough, and I found myself getting to the end and like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to continue. I certainly didn't, when we first heard about this project by Keanu Reeves, I certainly didn't think that this was going to be something that I would find myself actually even a little bit interested in. And so I got to give it up to him. He got me.
So can I interject something real quick? Just like a fun, Keanu Reeves was an intern at a theater very close to here. before he was famous, it was the oldest repertory theater in the country. It's called Hedgerow, and a couple of our listeners have been there. Yeah, have worked there. So yeah, just fun injection. Sorry, no, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like Len, you mentioned it. This is like a cold open. It was for a larger movie. I think it was like 3 pages in, and there was like 2 dialogue boxes and 3 pages, and I immediately switched my brain into like, oh, this is just gonna be a cold open for a movie, right? Like this issue is going to just be momentum, just push, and then I was able to just really kind of enjoy it after that. But I'm not a Keanu Reeves apologist. I'm just a straight up fan. He is a good storyteller and a good writer. I don't know if you guys have ever seen some of his like directorial stuff.
No,
not that I'm aware of. Like, wait, some examples.
The Man of Tai Chi was just so freaking cool.
That was cool. That was all right. It was all right. It wasn't great.
It was great. Right. I mean, it was great.
Oh, I did see that.
He was an ish bad guy, but he directed it, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
But he immerses himself in stuff like this. So even though on the surface it's very slight or genre laden, he's not lazy. None of this creative team is lazy. I think in my Thunder Round, it was kind of the thing that impressed me the most. Every single aspect of this on paper is like a vanity project, and it's cashing checks. Yeah. But the product itself, there's nothing lazy about it. There's nothing lazy about the art. There's nothing lazy about the writing. There's nothing lazy about the story. It's like a Netflix eventual cash grab, but it's still good for what it is. So you can't like argue that like this is just like a proof of concept for a movie or a TV show. Like, yeah, probably, but it's pretty decent. I like it.
It can be both.
I liked it a lot.
You know, like it can be a cool comic and then a cool, like we could just get 2 versions of cool shit.
This ticks me off. Rob actually mentioned it. It was 14,571 backers pledged $1,447,000 to help bring this project to life. That is annoying. This was solicited as a comic and already like in the works, and then Boom is doing this thing now where they kickstart eventual collected editions for the books in order to like just beef up sales and money before it even hits stands. Not a fan of it.
And one of my customers had come in and they said that they had backed this Berserker Kickstarter, and then I think found out I'm not getting the issues as they come out.
They're just getting a collection later.
Yeah, so so he came to the shop to buy a copy of the book that he already kickstarted previously. So that he could read it on time.
Yay!
I mean, I'm sure they tell you.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, cool for me.
Yeah.
Not for the reader. You should at least get like a digital copy, right? Like if you're going to kickstart a thing like this, maybe send them the issues as they come out digitally, just as a little, heads up. I mean, as a retailer, don't do that. I'm kidding.
I think they do have like the collections though. But it's all afterward. Like the first payout of that Kickstarter is going to be like November.
The movie will already be out.
Yeah. Which I saw the article title. Keanu Reeves hopes to play Berserker lead role.
Whoa! What do you think his chances are?
I don't know.
I
mean, hopes to in the sense that he would like there to be a movie, and if so, he will play it.
Yeah.
JD, I was just talking to somebody about kind of similar to what you were saying about Infinite Frontier. One of the selling points of this is it's its own thing. I mean, as all independent things are, but it grips you still. And not all independent things do that right away. And it's nice to have like, here's a new universe to explore that will be totally explored as much as it is in this one series.
Yes.
Yeah.
Next,
I'll tell you.
Chariot.
Because Noel, this is a special request from Noel because he wanted to. He has to split soon, but he wanted to see what we thought about this book.
Oh yes. Right. Okay.
So Chariot #1 from AWA Comics, written by Brian Edward Hill and art by Priscilla Petrades. I hope I did not butcher that, Priscilla. The Chariot was a Cold War-era secret government project to provide its star agent with a weapon unlike any other in the form of a supercharged muscle car. It sank into the ocean decades ago, and the agent along with it. Now, a petty criminal looking to reform his life has stumbled upon the chariot, and he is about to find out that the agent's consciousness is still controlling it in this synthwave thriller. Noel, do you want to kick this off, bud?
I mean, it's no shock or surprise that I enjoyed this. It's the first I've even heard the solicitation.
Yeah.
I just picked this up because it's like my de facto job to just read as much as humanly possible to kind of like toss to you guys like, hey, maybe try this or we'll try this instead of just reading the same stuff every week.
Yeah.
So I had no expectations giving this a shot, but for some reason, all of these genre tropes mashed together really worked. I really like Brian Edward Hill as a writer in general. But then all of these, I mean, they're all tropes. They're all like nothing special tropes, but just the alchemy in which he put them all together and pasted in this story with his artist. I was like, this is fun as hell. Like you've got a criminal trying to be better for his dying son, and he gets a magic car, and then it turns to like incredibly violent at the end, and it's just like this is I could see this as a film or a TV show, but it's very explicitly a comic book.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I just love the aesthetic too. I thought I was special by recognizing the fact that it's kind of synthy, and even though it's supernatural / sci-fi, it's grounded but with neon. But I guess that was obviously the aesthetic if you look at the cover. No, I love this. I really love this, surprisingly.
Brian, what'd you think?
I am not really into stories where a car is the thing. Like, I don't think any of them have gripped me ever. You know, that then I might, you know what? That one where the dude turns into a car. That one's pretty cool. You guys remember that show? His mouth would become the grill. Yeah. It's a heavy lift. What's that?
I don't know what you're talking about, but go ahead.
It was
either a cartoon or
it was a cartoon, and he would like get on all fours, and then his hands would turn into the rubber wheels. His mouth would become the grill, and
he would get wet, as I recall,
which
must have been a big obstacle in life.
Yeah.
More than a power.
Google it. Go on. Continue your thought.
So anyway, it's a high pull for me to be into a story about a car, and this didn't grab me.
Okay, fair enough.
What the shit?
The aesthetic is good though.
Yeah. Len.
Wait a minute, guy turns into car cartoon.
All right, so while he's doing that,
Turbo Teen? Are y'all talking
Turbo
about
Teen?
Oh my God, I've never heard of this.
There was a live action one where something similar happened too, but I don't know. I think I'm conflating them.
Was it by David Cronenberg? The
pilot was,
nasty body horror.
Well, you know what? It makes sense. It makes sense that you would. This was from ABC Network in 1984, and this comic book, just on the covers, has a very 80s look about it, and there's definitely a very 80s, 90s, early 90s type of vibe about it. That's what I felt when I was reading this comic book. It's cool. It's cute. It's all right. It's not doing anything bad. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I thought this was okay. It's interesting. All right. It honestly felt like the pilot episode of a TV series that I would say, okay, this is cool, but I don't think I'm going to watch you at Friday night at 10 o'clock. I'm sorry. It's just not for me. I'm going to keep on turning on something else. But it's like Noel said, it's a bunch of tropes thrown in there together, and it's like I don't know. It just didn't hit me like that. No, I guess also what I didn't like was, and this is a nit I'm picking, is the car is definitely like looks like a computer model in some of the scenes, as opposed to like hand drawn, and sometimes that just pulls me out of the quote unquote reality of the comic book a little bit. So yeah, it was.
Yeah, I thought it was a good looking book. The car being a model didn't really bother me very much. Having having dabbled in art, having to draw a car over and over and over again from different angles seems tedious and impossible to me. But that didn't bother me. I actually think the car blended well into the artwork itself, so it didn't really feel like there. It kind of looks like an ad on a billboard.
Yeah.
But like the other art is so
like that's the car's deal. Is it's a little different from the rest of the world. You know.
True.
Yeah.
The other art I thought was very competent, very well done. I thought that the pacing of the issue, maybe it went by so quick because it was so well done, but by the end of it, I was like, oh wait, we're done. I feel like I just opened the book. There's not too much dialogue going on. It's mostly just explosions, shooting, murder. Here's your lady ghost.
I'm just noticing now the way they do some of these sound effects within the perspective of the scene is you were just on one a couple of right there in the bottom right.
Yeah.
The vroom is kind of like with the car in depth in the scene. And on the previous page, they have one that I noticed first. Splatch is a cool sound effect when somebody gets hit by a car and presumably is killed. And but it's also kind of like spread out on the ground in perspective. It's pretty cool.
Very cool. But I think it's a fun first issue. Not fun enough to get me to read the next one. I think if it comes out in a trade paperback and Noel is like, y'all should read this, I have no problem reading this in a trade.
I was actually going to say, can you just pull the trade for me?
You got it. I'll write a list down for you. So yeah, Noel?
You guys are all wrong. This book was great.
Okay.
Cool.
Did you want to do a thunder round before you leave?
You should get the trade.
You know what? I got an extra 5 minutes. You want to talk about Demon Days? I got some thoughts.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I just checked the traffic. It's light.
Ooh.
All right, Demon Days, X-Men #1 from Marvel Comics, with writing and art by Peach Momoko. A wandering swordswoman with a psychic blade arrives at a village that's been targeted by demons. One demon is black and white with a terrifying red tongue, and another may be the strongest demon there is. In the stunning kickoff issue of this prestige quarterly story, you'll see a revolutionary reimagination of the Marvel Universe that could only come from Peach Momoko. Ready your katana and enter the mysterious world of demons, monsters, mutants, and magic. Book 1 of 5 of the Demon Days saga. I thought this was pretty cool. I didn't know much about Peach Momoko. They just sort of came out of nowhere, and all of a sudden there were thousands of variant covers for a myriad of different projects. And I was like, oh, some of these are pretty cool. I think some of them work more than others. But this, I thought, was very cool. Basically, we just have the Marvel Universe in, was it Edo, would you say? The feudal Japan?
Seemed to be.
So it felt a little bit like Miyazaki, in that there are these forest spirits. There's spirits of all these different things, and once you anger them, they're not out to get you, but if you fuck with them, you find out, right? Yeah. So I thought this was actually really, really cool. The fact that we've got Venom as a spirit, a disgruntled spirit, and Hulk as a disgruntled spirit, and Psylocke as this sort of Ronin sword for hire. I like seeing these reimagining of these characters, and they are very much only these characters in visuals only, right?
Right.
It's not like Psylocke existed back then, or this is if Psylocke existed back then. This is a completely new, reimagined universe. And I just thought it was a fun experiment, a fun first issue. I really enjoyed it, and it's gorgeous. The art is lovely. What did you think, Noel?
I agree. The art, it's like the layout of the book, the art, the concepts, the outline of it is very evocative and beautiful, and is dreamlike in a good way, not in like an impenetrable way. The writing was fine.
Yeah,
like it was a great outline, great concept, amazing art. It's fine. Like the reading the story was almost a struggle. However, experiencing the story was nice. Does that make sense?
Yeah. The art. I'm sorry. The writing felt YA.
Yeah, I can see that.
But like, even a little less than though. Like it wasn't like written down. It was just like missing beats.
Yes.
And if the intent was to make it all feel like a story told dreamlike, like just orally, sure. But it also just kind of kept me detached from any of the dialogue. It was just enjoying the outline of the story more so than being immersed in it.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of has a Fable feel in that context, where it's like, we are telling you this story that you know already. Like, you know the beats of this story, and here is... and Fables are sometimes like that. You know, they just kind of give you the highlights.
I almost would have preferred this if it was all text boxes and no dialogue. Like if a narrator was telling me across all this, then it would probably feel a little different.
Yeah.
But switching back and forth between dialogue that kind of sounds like narration and then narration in large chunks at the top was just fine.
Yeah, there was a disconnect between the two, and I don't think they served I don't think that the storytelling of the artist and the writer I don't think they were on the same page as you were. The art is it's a beautiful book, just like JD said, it is beautiful. I do think that this, like Miyazaki and some of the best anime, it is a book that lives on two planes, in that it has a YA feel and look to it, but a sophistication that an adult can appreciate. But when you have that, then there has to be a meeting point of where the two viewpoints meet, where they don't rub up against each other. And I think that this artwork, as beautiful as it is, I think sometimes does not serve the sophistication that they want, or no, the writing does not serve the sophistication that the art is presenting. I don't think. But so that could just be a learning curve, or that may be just a matter of, if this actually is supposed to be YA. I don't know. I'm just going in at it, just looking at it, the product on a whole, and saying that I think that for the most part, it sticks the landing and is beautiful, and it's something that is worthy to be, to be out there, and certainly should be championed. Hearing that it's a quarterly, though, admittedly, it's a lot of pages, so I'm not mad at that. But quarterly, wow!
Yeah, that's
why not just wait to do the whole book?
The next issue is June, I think.
Yeah, I mean, come on,
I agree with
man.
that. Yeah.
So speaking of sticking the landing, oh, sorry, Len, go ahead.
No, I'm done.
Speaking of sticking the landing, I enjoyed the whole book, but I was much more interested at the end, where
the twist.
Yeah, the twist. So if you don't want to know the twist, stop listening. Yes, no.
Oh no, I recognize that my concerns and how this issue is told could very easily or very quickly be taken away by whatever the next issue is.
Oh, yeah,
because if it is a constant pullback of the story is being told by another character and they're going to see their story, like if it turns into that, then that means that my hesitations are intended, right?
Indeed.
So I'm like, oh yeah, cool, great.
As far as twists go, I mean, it's nothing to do with this story really, and it would be good for people to know that it changes from this, that it jumps into the present, or it closer to the present at least, significantly closer to the present, and that intrigues me. So we'll see what happens. Do you guys know who the one of the main characters in Yellow and Black is? Translates.
Is that Danny
from?
Moonstar?
That's the only thing I could
so.
come up with is her, but I don't know.
That's how she looks too.
Yeah,
that's what I thought. Yeah.
Okay.
I do like Wolf Logan.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
So I didn't realize. Oh,
no,
so long, no.
Oh, bye, Noel.
I know.
Go ahead, Brian.
So I didn't realize that it was going to be just as tenuous a connection to the X-Men stuff as it is. You know, I thought it was going to be. I just assumed that it was going to be like if Psylocke was in this time or something like that.
Yeah.
Once I got on board with that, like once I knew what was happening with that, I liked it. I like mythology and that kind of story. And Japanese mythology is not something I have a lot of familiarity with, so I enjoyed that. I wondered, like, why is the Hulk type character red in this? Why didn't they just make him green? And why is Venom? And why is the Hulk in it at all? And why is Venom in it at all? And then in the end of the issue, they give you a little overview of who these characters are in traditional mythology. And I see why. It's because, with Venom, it's like, oh, it fits very well. This aspect, this character translates to Venom very well.
Yes.
And the Hulk thing, the redness is very important.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like that kind of adaptation. I thought it was cool. And yeah, it was a story, as we were saying, it was a story that was not particularly original in the sense that it is a very old tale that she is retelling. And I like that kind of thing. So yeah. And I'm curious to see what's up. There are some superpowers, presumably, or something, because this Logan is still there, so many years later.
The only thing about the writing is that it didn't bother me, having read a lot of Stan Sakai's Usagi Yojimbo.
Yeah.
It feels
Okay.
like the writing just feels very much in line with this form of storytelling.
Like a simplicity kind of thing?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Sort of stark of dialogue. Yeah. But yeah, I liked it. I'm looking forward to more. I was disappointed to find out that it's quarterly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's come on.
That's
Like,
strange.
I get that it would take a while. Like, this is presumably all, like, watercolor. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, it's watercolor.
But, yeah, why not just wait until you've got a few more in the can, as I believe they might say.
Yeah.
I think that's what they say.
All right.
Last I
So
checked, that's what they said.
those are this week's books. Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying what we do. We put up stuff throughout the week, including Thunder Rounds, which are 60-second reviews. Every Tuesday at 2 o'clock, I do an unboxing video here at my shop, JD's Hero Complex, where I show you all of the stuff that is hitting the shelves in my tiny little shop. And people hang out and we chat, and I pull books aside if you want them, et cetera, et cetera. Like and follow us on Facebook. We go there as well at CultPop Podcasts. Become a patron by going to patreon.com/JohnnyDestructo.
Wait, you get a title? If you donate, you become a patron?
You become a patron, yeah.
That's cool.
So yeah, we're gonna move on to WandaVision. We're gonna bring in Rob. Hi, Rob.
Hi, Jables.
Oh, Samuel David says we need more reviews from Brandon. Isn't Brandon supposed to be? Oh, is he down here? There he is. Oh my
funny
God!
you should say that, Samuel David.
His computer's no longer moist.
Yeah,
it's true.
Captain Comics
Try
says,
enough.
"Ahoy, mates and mermaids!" Hi, Captain Comics. What's up, Samuel David?
Hey.
Brandon. Samuel David just commented, "We need more reviews from Brandon."
I just saw. I mean,
There it is.
I can try. I haven't been caught up on comics. I just got caught up like in January. I've been behind for a while.
Let me ask
So
you this:
maybe I will.
What
Here
did
you
you
are.
have for breakfast, Brandon?
Nothing. I was gonna eat breakfast, but then I came and watched this instead.
And then what is your review of skipping breakfast and watching the live stream?
2 out of 5. Wouldn't recommend it, but it's the live stream's great. So
Yeah,
it
let's
worked.
break that out into the two. What's your review
Yeah.
of skipping breakfast? Separately, what's your review of the live stream that you are now on?
Well, I am hungry, so I wouldn't recommend skipping breakfast, but the live
Okay.
stream is worth at least 2 out of 5.
Oh, shoot. Cool.
All right.
High praise from Brandon.
At least, he says.
At
Well, no,
least.
the
Could
live
be
stream
more.
itself would get like a 5 out of 5, but
Oh,
It's too
okay.
late. You've ruined.
skipping breakfast
We're enemies.
gets like a negative 5 out of 5. It works out.
All right. So, and then Rob Patey, longtime friend of the show.
Aw, thanks, Jables.
For people who don't remember, Rob was one of my co-hosts on the Spoiler Alert podcast like 10 years ago.
Yeah,
No.
for 10 years, about 2 years ago.
Yeah. And then he decided
yeah.
comics, he's just too good for comics, and comics are for stupid nerds, and he was going to basically wander the earth.
Kane
Like-
style.
Yeah,
Yes.
like Kane and
not
Kung
learning
Fu.
not learning kung fu, just watching kung fu. So
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
wander the earth with my phone in front of me watching episodes of Kung Fu.
Yeah.
It was a very fruitful endeavor. I'm glad I did it.
Welcome back, buddy.
Thanks.
All right, let's talk about WandaVision. Robert Monroe Jr. says, I need to rewatch WandaVision in the context of the stages of grief.
Which were actually originally just about people facing their own impending demises, not for other, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, I believe, was describing what she observed in people themselves. And other people later said, like, oh, others go through this as well, but that may or may not be so, Yeah.
And the other theory behind it is that stages is probably an inappropriate term, and that there are phases of it, but it's really more of a circle. And I just lost my dog on Thanksgiving, and he was 12 years old and no kid. So pretty much my fur baby is pretty much is my kid. And it's true. It's a waxing and a waning. It's, you go to anger and then you go to acceptance the next day. And then the day after that, you're a little pissed off again. And I think they exemplified that in this show. They really did.
Who wants to give us a breakdown of the show? Just a quick.
I can try.
Brandon, go ahead, buddy.
There you go.
Tell us about WandaVision.
So the show is about how much are we spoiling? Just to start off.
Everything.
We'll spoil it.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah,
Okay.
If you want to not hear about WandaVision, listen to something else, and then come back when you want to hear about WandaVision.
There you go.
So
Yeah.
it starts off with Wanda and Vision, and they are living in a seemingly sitcom world in the 50s. And as the show progresses, the shows that they are parodying progress through the decades from the 50s to the modern day, and they parody a lot of popular television shows. But in the actual context of the show and their family, things start to go a little weird. They run into a lot of hijinks that you would expect from sitcoms, but then also things get a little crazy because it turns out this is all Wanda's way of dealing with her grief from Vision because someone really messed her up. And so now she is dealing with that by reliving sitcoms because that was her comfort food as a child. And she eventually has kids in this world. And yeah, that's about it until the end, where then we find out that there is another. First off, we find out that Wanda has magic powers, not just Infinity Stone powers, but she is actually a witch of some sort. She is the Scarlet Witch, in fact. And she finds this out from an evil witch named Agatha Harkness, who has been pretending to be Wanda's friend this whole time, but it turns out is actually just there to try to steal Wanda's powers. And she eventually convinces Wanda, or tries to convince Wanda Agatha tries to convince Wanda to give Agatha Wanda's powers. But that does not work out because, of course, Wanda is not an idiot. And Wanda eventually defeats Agatha and releases everyone from the town who she had been enslaving. And then she goes off and lives in a farm, and no one really cares about anything else she did.
JD, may I go first here because I've got to leave in just a couple of minutes myself.
Yes.
Offer my thoughts. Thank you. Thank you, Diogo. He says, "Hi everyone, have a great live stream." Awesome.
That's Diogo. He's a friend of mine.
Oh,
fantastic.
it feels weird that he's saying hi, but then it sounds like he's signing off with "Have a great live stream."
No, he'll be here, but he still
have a great live stream.
Wants us to. Great. So I liked it. I liked it a lot. As you guys know, I was hoping that Vision would come out intact, and I was a little surprised that it looked like Wanda when she created her WandaVision version of Vision. The color of her magic kind of changed to the Mind Stone, and I was like, "Oh, that must be a part of the real Vision too." And I really thought that they were going to merge the two visions, Yeah. But that being said, the fight between the two of them was awesome, and the resolution of the fight was awesome, where they have a philosophical debate about identity and existence to solve this fight.
Was it the ship of Theseus or
the ship of Theseus? Yeah. Mm-hmm. A very common. If you haven't heard it as that, you've heard the axe handle. Replace the handle and replace the head. I thought it would have been maybe a more philosophically interesting solution to that if they had merged together. Like the real one is the two of these kind of propositions coming together. But it is a philosophical question. I don't need or expect an answer to enjoy that question.
Yeah.
Well, I think they kind of did though.
What's that?
I mean, they didn't like physically merge, but
They
the
mentally
White
merged.
Vision now, is like he has the old memories of Vision, but he's also his own person.
Does he have the memories of the WandaVision Vision though?
True,
I don't think
he
so.
does not have that one. He doesn't have.
I mean, and they also both have the ability to go intangible, which is would be a very mergy kind of thing to do.
Yeah.
And so with this character specifically, I was like, oh, they could merge, you know. But yeah, I thought the way that wrapped up was great, and Vision is around. I don't know why this WandaVision Vision didn't say, oh, by the way, there's another Vision is back, Wanda. Just so you know.
Yeah, heads up.
The way that I'll next appear, I pose the question, is as this other guy.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
and I like that look. That's cool. So I was a little disappointed that Agatha Harkness is, just bad, but I don't know that she'll stay just bad. In the comics, she's pretty uniformly good, but suspicious. Like she does some things that aren't so great. And she's there still, and they may run across her again, like pretty easy for that to be done. I'm looking forward to Monica Rambeau. She fully came into her power here. That was pretty cool, and presumably that continues to exist after the Hex. She's Photon presumably in this. I don't know what they'll call her, but she's great. Weird. I love an energy-based character. It's cool.
Well, and I think that you bring up a good point, Brian, is who is the actual villain here? I don't think Agatha was all bad. She is selfish, but I see Wanda as the villain in all this.
And she didn't even apologize, right, guys? When she...
that's what I mean.
I mean, she knows that what she did was wrong, and she turns it off right away, and that's great. But she's walking through these people, and she's not like, I'm sorry, guys.
Listen, that's the most comic accurate thing you can do.
Yeah. But that's a good point, Rob. Yeah. It's murky. It's ambiguous.
As catchy as that, it was Agatha all along song is.
So good.
It's not true.
I mean, those things were her all along.
Yeah.
But she wasn't. It doesn't say I was the bad guy all along.
Right.
She
did kill Sparky.
She did. That's true. Which, depending on the previous existence of that dog, could be pretty bad. Either way,
true.
It's not
did it exist before? I never even thought of that.
Yeah, I don't know. But still, I mean, it existed then. Whatever its true reality was, it had something.
Samuel David says, yeah, she hears the sirens and splits. A villain move. That's true. She hears people coming. She's like, well, I guess I'll fly off now. Bye.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone does that. Batman does that.
I can hear the repercussions of my own actions. I got to see ya.
Right. Yeah, but Batman does that with the criminals thrust up with a little bat symbol on them.
Right.
Yeah.
The police are wrongly going after him.
Agatha's now trussed up. She's now a nosy neighbor.
Yeah.
And Hayward is ice cream trucked in a corner. So she beat the bad guys, and now she's leaving.
Yo, that was my. Well, I'll let Brian, because I know Brian's got to leave. Keep going.
Well, I do want to hear what you're going to say now, Len. I was going to go, but
the only thing I was going to say is like that was my immediate thought at the end of watching the series was like, I know she did not just peace out. Like she was an insurrectionist in Washington, because she just totally like dipped out like deuces. Like, dude, like
she picked up a podium and just walked off.
The one lady said, like, yo, can my daughter just leave her room? Like, this is what she was doing to these people. And then she's just going to be like, yeah,
Maybe it's because I've been reading X-Men a lot.
I didn't even like that Monica was like, yeah, well, I guess. Like, you've got powers now. Maybe you might want to like.
Monica's really grateful for the powers. She's like, listen, I'll let you go. You gave me powers. I'm gonna let this one fly.
Yeah,
and again, not a superhero move.
Yeah, I know that Monica Rambeau. I know that we recently did a whole big thing about Civil War and how people with powers need to have registered. And you were an outlaw recently and still are, but
arguably the cause of that.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. Listen, I mean,
it was accidental, and
maybe it's because of the X-Men comic that I've been reading. But like to me, this all feels very accurate. Like Wanda, she got rid of like the entire X-Men universe and was like, And she's never really had consequences for that.
Brandon is absolutely 100%
like, that's the
right.
whole thing
I remember
X-Men right now. They're calling her the Pretender. They're like, she's not a real mutant, and she did all these things to us, and they all hate her because she faced no consequences for her actions.
Yep. That pissed me off too.
I must go, gentlemen. Although that sounds, I'm sure there will be much more interesting stuff. But yeah, I liked it, and enjoy the live stream.
Bye.
Thanks, buddy.
So long.
Bye, Brian.
That pissed me off when, they finally brought the Scarlet Witch back after, what was it, Children's Crusade or whatever that was called, and they found her on Wundagore Mountain and they brought her back, and then she just joined the Avengers again, and there was like maybe a page of people being like, are we sure this is, and then everyone was just fine with it, and it's like, but she committed genocide, like magical, no more mutants. She brought down the entire mutant race to 198 people, and now she's just
to be fair, it was narratively getting really out of control because Grant Morrison took some magic mushrooms and made like 4 billion mutants. So it needed a contraction.
A little a culling.
Well, narratively it needed that, but also narratively she needed to face consequences for her actions.
Yeah, I think I would have felt a little bit better at the end of this show, which I loved. I haven't even said that. I thought, the first 2 episodes of this show, when they first hit, I was like, ooh, okay, this is cute, but I hope we get somewhere soon. It's definitely a slow burn that pays off over time. And I think in retrospect, you needed those 2 episodes where it's 90% actual sitcom in order
I'd say the first 3.
Yeah, 2 in a chunk, right?
Yeah, because it's like the end of 3 where it flips a little bit.
Yeah, and then 4 is the one where we really get into it. But in retrospect, I think you need those slow burn beginning episodes to really feel the full consequences of these innocent bystanders in this town who are trapped inside their own bodies doing things that they can't control and are in literal pain. The one guy says, it hurts. So I think it's important for that. But then on top of that, to go ahead at the very end and let her just float off into the sunset is even worse because you do feel or at least I did. I felt like, man, these people are suffering and there should be actual consequences for Wanda having done this, even if it's, she is a danger to herself and others. And when you are a human, you get put away for that.
Right.
This, she's like, I am a danger to everyone. I'm going to go to a cabin. So, I understand the problem of like, maybe they're not powerful enough to even stop her. But the fact that she doesn't feel as a character the necessity to turn herself in and at least maybe do some soul searching or something, that struck me as a little bit of a misstep.
Well, she took it on herself to go do that soul searching. So she's in the middle of Montana or whatever the hell and drinking coffee on the regular plane and while studying evil magic on the astral plane. She's a little scary looking at that. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's evil magic. I don't know if that's just like the book of magic that she's studying.
I thought it was the Darkhold.
Oh yeah, well, you're right. By name, that sounds like Black Magic. So very true.
You're familiar with Darkhold. It's from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season 3 or 4.
Really?
Well, Brandon's got the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. compendium. So if he says that's what it is, I know that it's true.
It was from the best season.
But what I will say is that as much as I didn't like consequences at the end of this, 2 things. One, I think that as the series as a whole, it's good. I think that this is the one way that you could give these 2 characters a project that's unto themselves without it having to be this big full-blown movie because I don't think as a movie it wouldn't have worked. It worked for what it was. You know what I mean? And it was interesting and it was a slow burn, but it was very thought-provoking in getting into the mindset of Wanda and what she was dealing with in regards to what she lost and her meditation on that. That was very interesting. And their flip use of Agatha Harkness, I didn't mind because in the comic books, while she's always been kind of like a little ambiguous, but definitely more on the side of good than evil, but ambiguous to say the least, she has always been the Wanda's teacher. So for her to almost be set up now to be this ear that Wanda can go back to regardless of whether she may not trust her as a trusted narrator or whatever, but she can still go back to her for
sort of a Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah,
exactly. So I kind of like that. And I see this as just the continuing narrative of the MCU. Yeah. She doesn't face consequences, but who knows? That might be a bit that is picked up in another one of the series or another one of the films. You're setting up like these other phases and everything like that. And you've got to big her up. You've got to big up her status so that she is more substantial when she does turn back to the movies. Because trust me, you know that Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany got it written into their contracts. We'll do this series, but don't try and X us out of the movies. Don't try and say like we can't be back in the movies for them bigger paychecks. All right, we'll do what you have us do, but make sure we get our star to shine, and you're not all of a sudden just going to start elevating everybody else up. Yeah. So for all that, I'm at the end of the day fine with it. I'll cape for Tiana Paris as Monica Rambeau all day, every day. So I was with that. The little I'm even down with the sexy scroll that shows up at the end. I was like, "Yo, what's up, scroll lady? How you doing?" She's kind of cute with little ears and stuff. So it was just at the end of the day, as slight as it may have seemed in the beginning, at the end I came around to like, I enjoyed this. This was kind of fun. This was fun television, and I'm hopeful that they're true to this form, and this was the series finale because I don't need a return to this. I just need like this nice little pocket, sweet stuff.
Yeah, to me, this is what I wanted Marvel television to be like when they announced the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show. I was looking for this level of storytelling, I think, or at least forward momentum with characters from the MCU, and I don't think that we got that as much as I would have liked in S.H.I.E.L.D. Robert Monroe says, I was hoping that the White Vision would have been created from the original Human Torch that was briefly seen in Captain America.
Yeah, that's true. It was seen in Captain America.
I vaguely remember that, yeah.
Yeah, in the first Captain America, you see the Human Torch in the dome
casing
thing or what casing.
The
you can see him standing there.
Yeah.
They don't reference him, but you see him.
And Tom Engel, Tom Engel, he says,
hot.
Who did Wanda really hurt in WandaVision? I don't know why you guys feel the need for her to be. She emotionally tortured 100 or more people.
Yeah.
Well, even if you don't want to put it as emotionally tortured, she took control of their lives.
Yeah.
It was like a magical roofie.
Right.
It was kidnapping, right? It was also kidnapping because
it was many things.
It was many things. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Westview is kind of a piece of shit town, but she also jacked it up pretty good. Yeah, I mean, it did not remain unscathed. Yeah, a little bit.
I can't tell if he's kidding. And let's see. Oh, Robert says, I think some of those Wanda issues will be dealt with in the Doctor Strange movie. I like the little tidbit that when Agatha was talking about how the Scarlet Witch is even more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme. I thought that was like, well, that's interesting. Is that your Doctor Strange comes? That's where Doctor Strange comes in. He's probably going to help her control her powers. Says that expert.
See, my thing with that is that's so far away. I don't feel like waiting a year for that.
It's a year.
That's so long. There's so much. My thing is like, there's so much other. I don't know. I guess it's just timing. It's just like there's so many other things.
You say it's a year, but we're already in March of 2021. Think how fast that already went. You know what I mean? It's going to be nothing, man.
I mean, I guess it's possible. I don't know. Speaking of, let me just say my thoughts on the show as a whole. I heard someone say it was a good finale to a great show, and that's kind of how I felt. Where the finale itself, I thought was just okay. I felt like a lot of the answers we got, of the ones we did get, weren't super satisfying. Especially the Quicksilver one. I know that a lot of people said, like, don't worry, you shouldn't have like put so much stock in theories, and I agree with that. like a lot of the theories about like Agatha being connected to Mephisto and all that stuff, that I wasn't really caring about that stuff too much. But I felt like when you cast the exact same person from the X-Men universe, it should have had a little more meaning than just being like stunt casting. That really frustrated me, especially because like he ended up just being a person. Like he wasn't even like, it wasn't like he was any type of hero or anything. He was just a guy who Agatha gave like speedy powers to. So that part really frustrated me. I liked the White Vision discussion. That was probably my favorite part. But overall, I kind of wanted more from it. I also felt like Sword, I don't think it really ever mattered that much. Like it started off as like that they were like the main antagonist, and then it started being more about Wanda like discovering herself and her versus herself being the antagonist. So Sword kind of fell to the wayside for me. Hayward, I felt, was just a really weird character where like at first it seemed like he was like a guy who maybe had faced some things during the blip or whatever, and that had turned him from a good person to a more morally ambiguous person. But then towards the end, like he shot at kids. That was stupid to me. That felt like they wanted to show Monica having powers, so they had him suddenly being willing to shoot kids. That was a little too much for me. I felt like his character in general was just not very well handled. But those are all the negatives. As far as like the storytelling from week to week, I really loved it. And the kids, I was a little nervous about them at first because the first kids they had before they aged up a little bit, I didn't really like them. I felt like they weren't very good actors, and so I was nervous
that's just 6-year-olds.
Yeah,
they're
that's just
annoying.
kids in general.
Yeah. Right.
But then when they aged up, I
stuck
started
together.
liking these kids more. I wish they would have stuck around, and I hope that I assume we'll get them at some point. I really like them. I liked Vision. I never really liked Paul Bettany in the MCU. I always felt like he was kind of one note, but this show really turned me around on that. I really felt like he really gave a great performance, and like everyone talks about Wanda and Agatha a lot, but like I found myself really drawn to his scenes, like anytime he showed emotion and stuff. So yeah, I really liked it overall.
Yeah, I mean, Paul Bettany it's amazing what he took as a voiceover role and now has turned it into the leading man in a TV series. Yeah, my overall thoughts are I am amazed at the growth of like Elizabeth Olsen as an actress, because to do that pastiche of Laura Petrie, Florence Henderson, Elizabeth Montgomery, Jane, what's her nuts from Malcolm in the Middle, right? Kazimierka, right? Her. To be able to do those emulations as an actress, I find that just phenomenal. I've gotten a little bit of a Facebook debate that, you know, episode 4 for me, when they finally switched to the actual main story, it started to bore me a little bit because I was deeply entrenched in because I watched all that shit on Nick at Night. So just to see how they so exactly emulated and dropped in little hints of there's something else going on here. I just thought that was pardon the pun, marvel in storytelling.
Yeah. Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. It definitely was cool. And I will say that, just like you said, she did grow on me. Like, and I don't, and to be fair, neither her or Paul Bettany were given much to do in the MCU. Like, you know, Paul Bettany for the most part was just a voiceover. And then when he wasn't a voiceover, he was an android who, while he had to show some learning of emotions, he still had to come off very androidy, you know what I mean? And Elizabeth Olsen, she just had to figure out, am I using the accent today or not? You know? So I mean, she didn't know which way to go. She did grow on me, and I found myself enjoying her portrayal. It doesn't help her when you're acting against somebody like Katherine Hahn, who is just balls out having a ball in this show, and you just can't help but radiate from her. And I did like what Paul Bettany was doing subtly. Elizabeth Wanda was definitely a pastiche of all of those characters that you just mentioned from those sitcoms, but Paul Bettany was still very much Vision, just stuck in the Darren role or the, you know, Rob Petrie role or what have you, you know, and even then he was probably more his Rob Petrie was more Darren because he wasn't the star of his show on there. You know what I mean? So for him to still find a way to actually develop and show that character developing and learning what was going on, shout out to him. I thought it was, I'm actually just surprised that they pulled it off. I'll be honest, when I heard that they were going to do a WandaVision, I was like, I don't know. And then everybody was saying, well, maybe it's going to take from the Vision, the Vision series by Tom King a little bit. So I read that. And while there's hints of it, the story is really far afield from there. Yeah. So then I was like, I don't know where they're going with this. But they pulled it off, and
which I think is good. I mean, you really wouldn't want to see the Tom King Vision story in the MCU at this point, right?
No, you're right.
Tom King Vision. Okay, well, I think Tom King's Vision world works in the comic world because we had so many years of comic books. Just like I'm okay with the fact that they never exactly emulate what happens in comics. I love to geek out and I love to fan theory along with everybody else. Shit, it would have been great to see this be part of the Mojo verse, right? Hey, it's a television show, so why not use it to introduce Mojo to everybody? Yes, I would love that because I have read thousands of comic books over 40 plus years. To bring this medium, to bring these stories to life, though, for the average on the street individual, they do need to truncate. They do need to just pick and parse and then build their own damn thing.
But I don't know that this was. I don't know that this is for the average, because like this reminds me a little bit of like Doctor Who audio plays, where it's like they make them for the average fan, but you have to do an extra step to get them. And so it's expected that you're a bit more of a fan than the average. And so you can throw things at people that are a little more high level and high concept. And I'm not saying that this show should have, like Tom King's Vision, we didn't necessarily need that. I didn't need like a House of M as a TV show or anything like that. But I do wish that they had, I feel like at the end of, like they kept hinting at crazier and crazier stuff. Like the Nexus thing. When they gave us a Nexus ad, a lot of people assumed that they were going to introduce that Wanda was a Nexus, because in the comics she is a Nexus, which means that like she's the only one of her in the multiverse or whatever. So it's like there was a lot of things they hinted at, and then it ended up that those things were just like, I guess, teases to the comics. Yeah, but they ended up just being like a normal thing at the end of the day.
But to you, what you just said, you know, the Nexus thing, people thought it was going to hint to Wanda being like the only one of one in the universe. This series does point to her as being a one of one. Agatha Harkness says she is basically like she is the Scarlet Witch. That is something that is not supposed to be. So that hint actually does pay off.
Yeah, and I think but I mean, like,
okay, but there may be other ones that tangentially may point to other things that maybe it doesn't pay off in the way other people like. But I think that, to Rob's point, this is actually for the casual fan, but that casual fan has been watching Marvel movies and watching Marvel television for now almost 15 years, 10 or going a little more than 10 years. So they can shorthand little stuff in here, knowing that they've got this whole audience that is still relatively young, that is very growing, and it is coming along with them. It acts as if you don't know who Wanda and Vision are, and you probably don't even have a great sense if you've been watching all those movies, this gives you a little bit better sense of it. And it's still, where does this fit in with all the movies that I was watching? They gave you that as well. Do they give you some member berries as far as people from different TV shows and different movies? They do that as well. Did they pull some more, chestnuts off of some fruit off of the Marvel tree in the comics to feed to you with Sword and Monica Rambeau? They do that as well, as just like Rob said, just like you got to pick and choose, and then you build your narrative on there for that casual fan that they are cultivating.
There's fun that I am fine with alludes. moves, right? They can drop something that is going to mean something to both you and I, Brandon, because we've read the comic books and we've watched the movies, right? They can do those alludes as long as it's in context. What I don't dig, straight up red herrings. And I will say the introduction. Whoa. Am I having a stroke? The introduction of the Fox Universe Quicksilver, I'll say that was kind of a red herring. They could have gotten anybody to play this Peter Boner guy, Michael Boner, whatever the hell his name ended up being. They could have gotten anybody to play that, but to get, Michael Peters to do that from the Fox universe, I kind of go, that's one where they were a wink and a nod and breaking the fourth wall and trying to set us all up on a different path. That was less of an allude, more of a red herring.
Yeah.
And I'm not mad at it. I was
Evan
fine
Peters.
With it. I am though. That was the thing that annoyed me the most.
I was mad.
Really?
Yeah, because like I said, it didn't have to be him from
Evan
the Fox
Peters,
universe. Like this didn't have to be how you introduce X-Men or anything like that. But I feel like if you bring someone that noticeable, it has to mean more than it did.
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah. Unless they have zero plan to recognize any of the Fox universe when they finally do introduce mutants.
I don't think they do. But I feel like
I don't think they should, because most of 90% of it's shit.
True,
but
which also means that they can't do Quicksilver because their Quicksilver already died. So for all of y'all wanting Quicksilver, this is as good as you're gonna get.
I mean, but he can come back because apparently death doesn't mean anything. Listen, we got Vision back.
That's a different death. That's an android. That's different, and you know that.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is. It's an android. He can be rebuilt. You can't rebuild Quicksilver.
He's a synthezoid. Get it straight.
In a meat vat with genetic engineering, maybe you can.
Exactly. He was a person. Like they spent the whole thing being like, we don't trade lives because he's a person. That was the whole climax of Infinity War. Is that he was a person.
Well,
I'm sure if people want Quicksilver, they'll bring Quicksilver back because the MCU is comics brought to life, and comics death doesn't mean anything.
What I thought was most interesting out of all this is that the Infinity Gems aren't gone. They are living at the atomic level within all of these characters now. Yeah, so that's yes, you're right. They could do almost anything. I mean, if you think about it,
yeah, I even pieced that together.
The Power Stone is part of Peter Quill now. From
Guardians.
When he got jacked, Guardians, when he got jacked around. I was trying to remember, did he get jacked around by that in Endgame, or was it Guardians? I didn't
read it that way. I read it as when she said that was the part of the Soul Stone or whatever that is in me. Or no, it was the Mind Stone. I assumed that was from when she touched the staff. Like, because she touched it, so she got an essence of the Mind Stone from that.
Right,
she got her powers from powers. I thought it was the Power Stone, because her powers are red, but Vision's yellow. So I assumed she got her powers from the red stone, and then she touched the yellow stone at some point, and so that's where she got that from. I didn't assume everyone had an essence just from like when they've interacted with it.
I think anybody who's putzed around with the stones now has an element of them inside of them.
I think anyone who's like had direct contact, but not necessarily everyone.
Kind of like if you think about if you read the Absolute Carnage miniseries from about a year or two ago, where anyone who had a symbiote is left with a little bit of a codex inside them. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's something like that, where there's like just a little. You've been touched by it. You've been touched by the powers, power gems. Todd Engel says this is kind of for everyone, but really for people like me who have been invested in the Wanda and Vision for decades. But that's a very small audience.
See, I don't feel like it was. That's my problem, is that I don't think it was for them. Because, like, if you wanted to really be for those characters, I feel like you would have gone a little farther with the comic book stuff.
I don't. I mean, they went pretty far into comic book stuff. They got Agatha Harkness, Photon, Sword. They went deep into the comic book stuff.
But what did those people do? Like, Agatha Harkness became a floating witch who threw light balls. Sword didn't really do much. Photon glowed a little bit, maybe. Her eyes maybe glowed if you zoomed in.
I wouldn't say the Photon. Go ahead, JD. You haven't talked.
I was gonna say she also phased through bullets.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, what even? I don't know
she's
even
the
what
one
her
that
powers
brought
are.
Wanda around to a degree as well. So I mean, I don't know. Well, I mean, look, I liked it. I enjoyed it.
Like I said, I still like the show overall. It's just I feel like it hinted at being the most comic book show we could get, and then at the end of the day, it became a normal show. And all of the things that in the comics would have had some really comic-y explanation ended up having a very average explanation in the show.
You need to do that for the medium, my friend.
But I don't think
you only
do.
have
That's my
10
thing.
episodes and a half hour because you have a pretext. You have a context of knowledge. You've got to go talk to somebody who hasn't read a comic book and has only watched the TV shows and ask them how this sort of Freytag's pyramid played out for them. You're kind of taking it off in a tangent.
I've talked to people who haven't read comics, and they said that they still felt the finale was subpar because they felt like it was hinting at a lot of interesting things, and they didn't know what those things were, but they could tell that it was leading somewhere cool, and then they felt like it kind of dropped the ball. In fact, I heard someone say it felt predictable specifically.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'll agree that it was predictable.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, but that's comic books. I mean, that's comic
books. Not comics aren't predictable.
Oh, that's not true. That's not true.
The best of comics, I wouldn't say. I mean, like, yeah, good's gonna beat evil, but aside from that, like, I wouldn't say that comics overall are predictable.
Well,
or at least the best of comics.
As someone who has read the best of comics for over 40 years, I would disagree with you. I think comic books are predictable. It's just a matter of the storytelling and the machinations.
How they get there.
Change is how they get there.
Formulaic.
Yeah.
So, but that's what I'm saying is that I felt like this was more like the best comics aren't necessarily formulaic, and you don't necessarily know. Like, you might be able to guess what's going to happen in issue 6 of a 6-issue miniseries, but not necessarily what's going to happen in issue like 3 or 4.
Well,
and
that's what we said.
But I felt like with this, by towards the end, like you could kind of see where it was going, and it wasn't necessarily as interesting as it could have been.
Okay.
I think it was funny that all of these people, so many people came into my shop and were like, "What do you think? What's your take on it? What are they gonna do?" And I'm like, I have no idea. I have no interest in pontificating and trying to figure out the future wrap-ups of these stories and who they're going to introduce and who's really behind it. Is Mephisto and all this stuff. I'm not interested in that. I'm just along for the ride.
I enjoy the pontification. The thing is, you can't be butthurt when your pontifications don't come to reality.
That's where I was heading.
I thought, again, you were
totally,
you were helping out in the store, JD, but I said, oh, cool, television, shit, wouldn't it be great if Mojoverse came into here, right? What a great way to introduce some mutants. Everybody's watching this show on Mojoverse.
Yeah.
I knew that probably wasn't going to happen, but boy, was it fun to talk about for an hour.
Yeah. It's just, I think when talking about it, thinking about all of the possibilities, I feel like they went with the most basic of them. Like, I don't need Mojoverse. I don't need Mephisto. I don't need the darkness or whatever is a thing in Wanda's history. I don't need any of that crazy stuff. I just needed something more than, I guess, what we got. I guess it's not even like from a comic book perspective, just from a storytelling perspective. I felt like what we got was very, like you said, like formulaic. And
another thing, and I don't know what you do have to bear in mind is not only was this a built for television series, it's a series that was built for Disney Plus, which also hampers certain levels of their storytelling that you do have to play around with. Again, I was fine with it, but that also does play a part.
But I would disagree, because if you go to Disney Plus, look at The Mandalorian, like that pulls things from the shows, from the movies, like even little hints from the books. Like that, like if you look at that versus this, like it's made for it's not for the diehard of diehard fans, but that show is definitely more for a bit of a higher level fan than someone who's just seen the movies once or twice.
I don't necessarily agree with that so much because I think both of these properties pull from all those different tangents to create a whole. I will agree that The Mandalorian maybe did it better. Is a better show. I'll give you that. But I think the Mandalorian is also at its concept is trying to be a different type of show. It's trying to be a very almost like a the Mandalorian feels like a Western to me. You know what I mean? And which is a totally just a really totally different genre than what WandaVision is trying to be as a show. But I think in how they got there, I think they're both doing the same.
But my point is,
if you look at the Mandalorian is not after episode 9 and moving the story forward to the next phase of that universe. The Mandalorian is a standalone little side tale that we didn't really ever need. We love, it's great. I love that it exists, but it's not like it introduced elements that we were all clamoring for answers to, right?
But did this? Because to me, this didn't introduce anything I was clamoring for.
It did for me. Photon, the fact that we got a brand new hero out of it that we were introduced to in Captain Marvel, and I wasn't sure they were even going to give her powers, and the fact that they gave her powers, I was clapping. During that scene because I was so excited to see her.
That's my thing is keep going. Sorry.
What?
I was just going to say, I don't feel that her power, they never really did much with her power. She glowed. That was about it. And bullets went through her.
It just happened in the last episode.
They just figured this shit out a week ago.
Exactly. That's my point is that it will get there. And Photon, I'm sure, will be an amazing hero. But I don't feel that this show is that's not a bonus for the show that we saw her get the beginnings of her powers.
Okay, but also the show develops Wanda and Vision way more than the movies did. So much so that we now have a whole nother Vision, and Wanda now not only has a name, but seemingly has more of a mission, a reason to be, as opposed to just being just someone who escaped tyranny or whatever. So and it's very ambiguous. So I think it has.
Yeah, I think it moved things forward. It's changed the status quo.
The creation of 2 new life forms and with her children.
Certainly more than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. ever did.
True, but I still, just going back to the Mandalorian, what I was saying is that I still think that for the Star, that did, that, even if it didn't necessarily advance the Star Wars universe, it introduced aspects of it to a larger audience. And I wish this had done. To me, this would be if you mentioned Ahsoka in Mandalorian, but you didn't show her. That's kind of how it felt this show did it, where it kept hinting at things, but it didn't show any of the larger stuff.
I think you can, and again, we've got 2 seasons of Mandalorian, which we're trying to compete with, 8 episodes of WandaVision. So that might be a bit of an unfair comparison. But again, they are on completely different objectives. This is stretching out a small moment of time that is almost forgotten when you look at the Mandalorian. WandaVision had upon its shoulders to push the MC universe forward, and how much it pushed it forward, we can debate that. It's probably, some will say a smidge, some will say a lot, depending on how much you care about these different characters that came out of it. But again, they're different objectives, and just because they both live under the Disney banner, I would not be putting them on the same equation scale. I think there's a reason on Disney Plus when you go into there that you pick a universe to go off and watch. There's a reason they don't have it all just a Messerschmitt of stuff there,
Yeah. But there you go. So JD is not here to sign us off, but the next thing that is coming by way of Marvel on Disney Plus is the Winter Soldier and the Falcon, or Falcon and Winter Soldier. However you want to. I came from Winter Soldier myself, but are you looking forward to that? I'm curious, Rob. Are you looking forward to that series?
I am, and again, it's mainly based off of what I know from the movies. So here's a great area where I'm coming into it as a bit of a neophyte, because most of my time with Marvel was definitively spent with the mutants or with the Hulk, right? I did not get that into Captain America. I'm not that, well versed in Bucky. So I'm just kind of taking it from the relationship and the banter that those two had within your Civil War, right? When they were kind of getting chased by Spider-Man. And then, of course, that moment at Endgame when, Cap's shield is sitting there and he's oldie Cap, and Falcon now kind of picks it up and takes on the mantle of Captain America. So, yeah, absolutely. I want to see more Marvel stuff. So please bring it.
What about you, B?
I'm very excited for it. Honestly, more excited now that I've seen WandaVision. My expectations will be a little lower. But I think I'm kidding, sort of. But honestly, looking at the trailer for it compared to the trailer for WandaVision, this show, I think it's going to be different. Yes. And I'm excited for what it will be. Also, I don't know the Captain America lore as well as, I don't really know Wanda lore either. But also WandaVision in general is just a weirder aspect of the Marvel universe, and so I think it would have been harder for them to do the weirder things. Whereas with this, I'm excited just to see whatever they do, and I think it'll be easier for them to draw from just at the end of the day, a guy who's just really a good soldier. It'll be easy to tell a good spy thriller story over however many episodes.
Well, and a buddy story, right? It's definitely going to be. It's definitely going to. Yeah, I don't want to say Turner and Hooch because that's a bad analogy, but that's the first thing that popped in my head.
So topical,
like Turner and Hooch, right? Yeah.
Tango and Cat.
Grandparents.
How about Tango and Cat?
Yeah, there we go. That's a better T. Yeah.
I'm curious. Todd Engel comments: will it be cool or horribly PC and whack? Hopefully, it has a bit of an edge and also fun, and not just preaching about what. Because a black guy is Captain America now?
Did he say preachy? Or did he horribly?
In the next comment, he said not just preachy.
Will it be cool or horribly PC and whack? Hopefully it is just a bit of an edge and also fun and not just preaching.
I don't see it being I don't see it being preaching at all. I think I see it actually being a return to what I think was the most successful cinematic slice of the Marvel universe, which was the Captain America movies. So I'm really excited for that. I'm excited for the exploration of those two characters. I like Anthony Mackie. I like Sebastian Shaw. Is that the
Stan?
Stan.
Sebastian Shaw is the Black King, right?
That's right. That's
right.
All right, Sebastian. I like both the actors. So and the trailer does look like it's going to be like a totally different feel, totally different vibe, almost like a stretched out movie. My concern is that they hopefully don't stretch it out too far. I think they said it's only supposed to be 6 episodes or something like that. So that sounds perfect for me. I'm excited about it.
I'll say, to bounce off of Todd's comment, okay. So it's only 6 episodes. I didn't realize that. How many was WandaVision? 9?
9.
Yeah, I think 9 was a perfect amount. But 6 is fine. The problem with 6, I think, is that it's not going to do the thing that I want it to do, which is what Todd doesn't hope it does, which is the fact that it's going to be dealing with the fact that there is now a black man who's Captain America. I would like a commentary on that, and I would like them to delve into that in the Marvel universe. They did it a bit with when Falcon was Cap in the comic books. Hashtag not my Captain America and all that stuff. I think that is an incredibly interesting thing to look at with this character, and not just, there's a new guy with the shield. I think part of the thing that makes it interesting is that the sort of the race relations of it.
I think it's not going to be preachy. I predict it won't be preachy. A lot of people will say it will be preachy anyway. But I do think that it will. Yeah. But I do think it will. I think it's going to address that because, in the same way that WandaVision did different things week to week, but was still so at its core about her grief. I think this will have that as an aspect of it, even if it's not the main driving force. It'll still be an aspect throughout it. Also, I'm very excited to see Agent 13, I think her name is, because I feel like they have not done enough with her, and she really interests me. And I hope that in the same way that WandaVision gave us more of Wanda and Vision, I hope that this does a little more with her. Obviously, she's not the main character, so it won't be as much, but I hope that we get a little more from her.
Do you think they're going to make her a love interest for one of the characters?
I hope not.
Yeah, probably. Probably Bucky.
They probably will, right? That's what I was thinking.
I
don't think they need to. I don't think they should, but I think they're going to.
Have they leaked anything at all, or have you guys gleaned anything about what the actual plot might be?
I've seen the trailer.
I think
That's
it's I think it's
Okay.
from the trailers. I'm assuming it's going to be that like Cap gave Sam the shield, but America, like the government, wants to have their own Captain America because we know U.S. Agent is in it. So it seems like it's going to be a bit of a thing between those two, and also we know Zemo's in it. So I assume he'll be in the background doing stuff too.
I'm excited for the return of Zemo. I liked him in Civil War.
Yeah.
As rife with coincidence as his ulterior motives were. I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be cool.
Samesies.
Yeah. Any final words before we peace out?
Nope.
Glenn, do you have any announcements?
That's it.
I do have an announcement. The Black Tribbles are going to be presenting the world's longest live podcast. Look it up on Kickstarter right now, ladies and gentlemen. World's longest live podcast, 60 hours straight. April 16th through the 18th. Yes, me and Robert Monroe Jr. will be sharing our birthday on the 17th. We're going to have a pancake eating challenge. We're going to have karaoke. We're going to do role play. We're going to have the rapping. We're going to have comedy. We're going to be geeking. It's going to be insane. We're going to have gambling, alcohol. It's going to be insane. And we need your help. Look for the world's longest live podcast on Kickstarter. Check out our video. It's kind of cute. It's kind of funny. Check it out. It's going to be big time. There you go.
Are you going to sleep at all during those 60 hours?
We actually have a bet of which Tribble is going to be the first one to rock out. So I have a personal goal of trying to stay up for 36 hours at least. So because I think that's how long I'm going to have to do to beat Eric. Eric is like the favorite to last out the longest. We all know that Ariel of Malcolm Comics, she's going to rock out when first time she gets here. She's just going to go straight to sleep. She's like, hey, I'll see y'all at 10 o'clock. Yeah. Like we've got to bet who's going to last the longest. I'm trying to go 36 at least.
Nice.
Are you guys just doing it as a like in-person thing? Or are you guys going to call in people and stuff like that too?
Oh, no, we've got special guests that are going to be calling in. We've got a whole ton of guests. I'm still actually, I thought I was going to have something to announce, but I don't, unfortunately. But we've got guests calling in from all over the world, from all over the geek sphere. And we're going to have some people that are going to be live in person, but because of COVID, we got to limit that number. Mm-hmm. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be insane. It's going to be streaming live for people to check us out for the entire weekend.
Dates again?
It's April 16th through the 18th. The world's longest live podcast.
Nice. Make sure you get your taxes done.
Oh shit!
They might do an extension. They're talking about it, so hopefully.
Well,
yeah.
Rob, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure. I haven't seen you in a long time, and I miss you.
Congrats on the baby.
Thank you.
Miss you guys. Love you guys. Yes.
Love you too, Rob.
Brandon, Inspector Spacetime Tribble, where can the people find you?
Here, maybe. Okay. Other than that, I don't know. Book wherever there is space time, I will be there.
I'm sorry, Rob. I forgot to ask you. Where can the people find you online if they want to talk to you?
Same big bullshit answer, Brandon. Just kidding.
Great. Wherever there's space time, you'll find
Wherever
Rob
there's space time, you'll find Brandon and Rob.
Yeah. All right, guys. That's it. We're done. Get the hell out of here. I got to go run my comic shop at 4327 Main Street, Philadelphia, PA, Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex. And that's it. Like, subscribe, do all that stuff. We love you. We will talk to you later. Oh, be safe. Also that.
Wear your mask.